So, how spooky is...
I don't know. I mean, have you ever read Dagon?
I've... maybe a long... Isn't that the fish god?
Yeah.
Dagon is the fish god,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, so this is a Lovecraftian visual novel of Dagon. I don't really know anything else about it. The hell, there's DLC. But we're gonna jump in and just see. This is gonna be interesting. It was free. Dagon is a faithful, interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here. Movement is limited to progressing through locations with the plot. Okay. Oh, microtransactions.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain.
I don't like
tonight. I shall be no more.
During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey, others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these, focus your eyes and look for the sign. Sign. So, okay, so that's how I vote. So I could like, look at that.
There you go. There's a sign. Lovecraft letters. As to letters, my case is peculiar. I write such things exactly as easily and as rapidly as I would utter the same topics in conversation. Indeed, epistolary expression is with me largely replacing conversations. As my condition of nervous prostration comes more and more acute, I cannot bear to talk much now, and I'm becoming as silent as the spectre himself. My loquacity extends itself on paper, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so that's a letter from Lovecraft to Reinhard Kleiner.
Right?
But it'll be like the Smile Draco from the Smile movie where people are like...
The creepy one. Throughout his life, Lovecraft penned around 100,000 letters to his friends and fans, out of which about 10% survive to this day, but his tendency to endless correspondence was relatively late growth. In youth, scarcely did any letter writing, thinking anybody for a present was so much of an ordeal that I would rather have written 250-line pastoral or 20-page treatise on the rings of Saturn. I don't know how much of this you want to read. Lovecraft would often skip meals to afford postage. Collections of his correspondence have been published in various books, and selected letters can be found online. Some readers consider them his most important legacy.
You can read the discovered trivia immediately or go back to them later in the main menu. Okay, that's cool. So we could decide if we wanted to. We can go back to that. The only one? Okay, he goes away. Face Cthulhu or Ifliqua? I honestly don't know.
Yeah, what's the second one?
Yeah, who that be?
Ifliqua?
Who that, baby?
It's Iggy Azalea.
It's Iggy Azalea the month. I can't turn anymore, so I guess that's everything.
I guess that's it, yeah.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
The Yeti, but as an elder god. I'm more inclined to Snow, so let's go with the Yeti.
Yeah, I'll go with Cthulhu, sure, why not? Underwater,
do not think from my slavery
ocean vibes is a little more my...
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
So, Anel recently said that he was like, Lovecraft was a bad writer, that he just decided he couldn't describe the things he was talking about, which is, like, obviously purposely missing the point, but...
Call of the Sea. Okay. I mean, I haven't heard of that before, for sure.
We have to... This is pretty short, so we could check that out after, just see what it...
I also think, like, sea theme, like, my last major D&D character was, like, essentially a sea witch. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, I've been feeling that vibe lately.
Yeah?
Any signs? Hello? Ian's like, I don't want to miss anything.
I can't turn anymore. Well, I'm a big Lovecraft boy.
Lovecraft.
I think this sign means it progresses the story.
I think so. Oh yeah, that's the symbol. Finished D&D, but really want McDonald's fries. So
Yo!
BRB.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. After D&D, snacks are the best.
Katunu?
Interesting. Okay.
Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War and World War I. It was also sold without restriction until 1914. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Friedrich Turner, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium, after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, already posed a big problem.
You like to say Cthulhu as Cthulhu?
So, Lovecraft actually wrote that you were supposed to choke out the words, like it's not made to be said by the
yeah.
So it's supposed to be more like Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
But, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Alright, I don't see anything else.
Cthulhu. Yes.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented
Yes,
parts
no.
of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the
Supercargo.
German sea raider.
He's most demanding attention from me, so... Oh, there you go.
So every time I click on it, it pulls the mouse back to the center of the screen.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I assume because it's essentially a point-and-click game,
Yeah.
they probably are like, everyone's getting used to the mouse. Dagon was written around a month after the United States entered World War I. Lovecraft was actively interested in its course. He composed many poems in which he gave encouragement to soldiers and commented on the events unfolding in Europe. He tried to enlist in the army, which he mentions in one of the letters to Reinhard Kleiner. Some time ago, impressed by my entire uselessness in the world, I resolved to attempt enlistment despite my almost invalid condition. I argued that if I chose a regiment soon to depart for France, my sheer nervous force, which was not inconsiderable, might sustain me till a bullet or piece of shrapnel could more conclusively and effectively dispose of me.
Damn.
But even though he passed the physical exam, his mother prevented him from going to the war. She has threatened to go to any lengths, legal or otherwise, if I do not reveal all the ills which unfit me for the army. Oh, wait, that's just saying where it's
Yeah.
Alright.
His grave on it says, I am Providence.
I just imagined him being like, yo, I tried to sign up, guys. I tried. Mom, can I join the army? Mom, can I tell them I can join? And she's just like, no, you can't join. That's what I imagine.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Okay.
You want me to read these?
They're talking about my people. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. So yeah, early on, when the Huns showed up in Europe, they were like masters of mounted warfare, and everyone else was like, what the fuck do we do? They're riding on horses and shooting us.
Yeah.
During World War I, the British used the word Huns as synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th of July 1900 before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited, just as 1,000 years ago the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves. One that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention in 1899. Alright. Just take a minute to look out at the beautiful ocean.
So this is interesting. So this is essentially each section has like you could read a fun fact or you could just click through the story.
Yeah.
Basically, is what I'm getting the sense is what this is.
That's pretty cool. I like it.
So it'd be an interesting learning tool.
Yeah, for like school.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Gotta zoom in.
I am zoomed in.
Oh.
I think this is the only thing.
Alright.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Would you be scared to be out in the ocean like that?
Oh, absolutely.
I'd be terrified. Like, there's no, like, end in sight. Just, like, you're in the middle of the dark ocean alone.
Yeah.
I actually saw a video earlier where a guy, I think he was, like, a professional scuba diver, and it was, like...
What the heck? I tried to put a marker in for the liberal comment you made.
Oh. And he showed himself, like, swimming around in the ocean during, like, the daytime, and then swimming around in the ocean at nighttime. And at night, the water looked, like, pitch black, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm scared. Help.
Alright, so once again, I don't see anything. Except for the moon.
When the moon hit your
The
eye,
weather kept fair,
like a big
and for
pizza pie,
uncounted days
that's
I drifted
Cthulhu.
aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
So, who's stronger, Cthulhu or Dagon?
I don't know if Dagon is an actual elder being or if it's just, like Cthulhu, like a priest.
Mm.
I'd have to do some reading. Or if Dagon is not, like, he might be of Earth and it's just like a deep sea creature. I haven't read Dagon in a while.
Oh, on the front of the boat.
Oh, you're right.
Dagon was written in July 1917 and first published in 1919 in The Vagrant, an amateur magazine focused on the supernatural. The story is the first of his stories that introduced an element from the Cthulhu mythos, Dagon itself. A pagan cult worshipping Dagon later appears in The Shadows over Innismouth, one of Lovecraft's most popular works. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that, but that's always how I say it. Innsmouth, okay.
Yeah.
In 1970 is also the year when he wrote The Tomb, a story about Jervis Dudley,
It's a really good
daydreamer
story.
who discovers a mysterious mausoleum in the woods by his house, becomes obsessed with it. These two works marked Lovecraft's return to short story writing after he burned most of his attempts at the genre 9 years prior. That's dramatic AF. Decided to concentrate on poetry. Lovecraft stated that it was his friend William Paul Cook, a literary publisher and critic, who convinced him to start writing weird fiction again.
Would you classify, like, if you, most of the stuff I write, what would you put under as a genre?
I was telling, I've been telling people that it's, cosmic horror.
Yeah.
But I didn't, when up to where I had read previously, it wasn't really cosmic horror yet, but weird fiction is a good genre description.
Because, well, I mean, not even my novel, but, like, my short stories and stuff. Like, they're often... They're, like, there's something inhuman about them, but they're not... I don't feel like most of my stuff is weird enough to move into weird fiction.
Dagon is more powerful for the fact that Dagon was once a god in ancient Syria and had an actual following and worship for 1,000 years, while Cthulhu is mainly a fictional character.
Yeah, but it's established in canonical Lovecraftian writing that the Outer Gods and even the Elder Gods are much stronger than human gods.
Oh, interesting.
Like,
I wonder if Lovecraft's Dagon is the same Dagon.
He obviously stole the name, but yeah.
Obviously stole the name, but in his, like, mythos, is it the same god? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, because, like Cthulhu is not only a being that is a god, but it's a being that will like continue to exist at the end of the universe versus like Earth's gods who will end eventually when Earth ends.
The tomb sounds interesting.
It's a really good story.
Story-wise, yeah.
Alright.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
You can eat
The
that grass
change
if you want,
happened
Luna.
whilst I slept.
That's for you. We bought you that cat grass.
Ronnie's completely ignoring the horror.
I'm sorry, I'm talking to the cats. Trying to get them to eat this cat grass that we grew for them.
Its details
Luna's
I
just
shall never
jealous.
know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Oh yeah.
Aw, show me the tentacles.
All those tentacles writhing around. Look and see if I see the symbol.
Yeah. I can't turn the camera anymore. That.
Oh!
What?
Stars.
Yeah.
I don't see. Oh, wait. Is this something? No.
Alright, tell me.
When
Tell
at
me about the
last I
squid.
awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire,
Half sucked.
which extended about me in
Sorry,
monotonous
I can't help
undulations as far
myself.
as I could see.
Undulations.
Oh.
Does Lovecraft know how sexy this stuff sounds nowadays? Anyway, I think our captioning stopped working. I just noticed.
Oh, that's true. Let me tab out here.
He's tapping out. He can't keep up with the undulations. Hello? Are they working again? God, there's so much going on.
Alright, is it working?
Yes, it's working. Okay. Alright, looked it up. Dagon is named based off the actual Dagon, but is the father of the Deep One and consort of Mother Hydra. Okay, so that makes him sound like he's potentially more powerful than, Cthulhu, right? But going over the thought process in my head, Cthulhu may be the strong one. Isn't there somewhere in the lore that even the bare sight of him fully revealed Cthulhu? Yeah, I think that is in the lore for Cthulhu, but that's in the lore for like all the great old ones or whatever the heck they're called.
Yeah, like even people who don't like just become gibbering, you know, babies at the sight of these things still kind of walk around like always in pain, like understanding this.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gizmo?
Yeah, okay, so Dagon is the father of the Deep One, which is the Innsmouth creature.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
So that would make him a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
Rules all the seas. Okay, that makes sense, considering the undulating tentacles that we are visualizing
Yeah.
here.
And in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren
Y'all ever
immensity.
fall asleep on the ocean and wake up to this?
There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
I always picture him as a big fish, so it'll be interesting to see.
I know it's possible. I mean, Oh, yeah, that's cool.
He's like a big sea serpent.
Yeah.
I'd worship him. You know what? I'd worship him.
You know what? I'm
Sure.
in, Dagon.
I'm in it. Let's do it. I'll worship Dagon.
That's progression. I think that's all we got.
Yeah, I don't see anything else.
To the boat.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
The only thing about that picture for me that's really disconcerting, like if I saw a fish like that, I'd be like, that's some scary shit, right? But if it had arms like that, I'd be like...
Like if it didn't have arms, you would think it was...
I'd be like, that's a sea monster, but okay.
Yeah.
As I crawled into the stranded boat. Only theory I could explain my
Through
position.
some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface.
Dagon had
exposing
diarrhea. I was
regions
like,
for
do
which
not
innumerable
go in there.
millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might.
I don't like that big undulating mound on the right.
Oh, that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the Blob.
Is it coming closer?
Have you seen the classic Blob?
Yes. The black and white one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nor
Great
were there
movie.
any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
No seagulls out here.
There hasn't been too much hidden recently.
Look at this canister.
I am zoomed in.
Never mind. Retract to the previous statement. Dagon being real Cthulhu. They're also real in their own right to pull down one.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, when does, you know, if all history of, like, these stories was lost, but someone stumbled upon a book about Cthulhu, people might be like, they worship this weird thing called Cthulhu.
Right. Yeah.
For
Ronnie
several
also was
hours, I sat
anthropology
thinking
pill.
I
of
was an
avoiding the
anthropology
boat,
major,
which lay
so
upon its
I
side
get,
and
I
afforded a
understand.
slight
Yeah.
shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
You're just
That
hanging out
night I
there.
slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a
Ah!
pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Hello, don't eat us, please. I don't see anything.
Yeah.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Gotta say, the pictures and everything for a visual novel, really good. The way it's presented and the voice acting is like, it's very
The
satisfying.
voice acting is good, yeah.
Of any of the myths and cultures you think of, which myths do you find most engaging for your personal lives?
Does that just mean which ones, like, we personally enjoy the most?
Or, like-
which ones do we, like, utilize the most? Right?
Yeah.
In our day-to-day lives?
Because I'm interested in Jungian psychology, I find Fae very interesting because it really feels like there's some kind of archetype there that all of humanity, everywhere at once, kind of plugged into and put into their society.
I was going to say, if you followed the... I mean, Draco, I know you've been here, but I'm sure I've talked about Baba Yaga and Slavic folklore more than once, and I really love Slavic folklore mostly because of Baba Yaga, because she's just such an interesting, mythological character. So, yeah, so I feel like, for me, I really like that mythology.
Yeah.
I love those stories, and something about Russian and Slavic folklore too is just different enough from like other folklore for me that I still find it interesting as I'm like studying it now.
It's for me, I don't know, it was always weird. I think my dad thought it was weird that I just had like an inherited interest in it, but like Hungarians are not Slavic, but they're like bordering on it. So like I don't know, it felt like there was some kind of like internal call for me to be really interested in that stuff.
My dream is just to become Baba Yaga actually in the future, so
why don't you be her for Halloween?
Well, what would you be? The chicken house?
Yeah.
Just give you a house and some little chicken legs to put in. You can
I'll like walk around and be like
or you could be my pestle.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Yggdrasil's really cool.
Yeah, that one is really cool. So like Norse mythology.
Yeah. I mean, and that one, if you like look at the way the universe is structured from the smallest like quarks up to, you know, how everything is built, it feels like you're building a tree. And like, you know, because like you get the basic building blocks of the universe, and you get like stars and planets and circles and all that, and then you get people and living things, and then from there, like, it just keeps going, and it feels like you're building a tree upwards.
Yeah. I like mythology a lot.
Yeah.
Got any symbols? Does not look like it. He's sitting next to her grass.
All day I forged steadily
just staring at us,
guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
If I started seeing those bones, I would be like,
oh shit.
I'm in danger.
Okay.
Yeah, there haven't been any little lore tidbits.
I mean, I guess we are inside, like, on... Well, I'm not... you don't know the story, so I'm not gonna spoil it. But it would make sense, kind of, why there's nothing here.
And we're on another plane of existence, I'm assuming?
You'll see. No spoilers for the monster.
I might have read this story, I don't remember.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Oh.
Horrors of the ocean. The creator of the Cthulhu mythos in the fictional underwater city of Rayla? Is that how you said it?
Rayleigh, is what I normally hear.
Was convinced that life could not exist at the bottom of the ocean because the water pressure would make it uninhabitable. Today, we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, the Mariana snailfish, could live at about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet below the ocean surface, in never-ending darkness and hellishly crushing pressures, hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. Upon glancing at the modern photo of deep-sea creatures such as the anglerfish, the fangtooth, or the viperfish, they all have such horrifying names. They're truly Lovecraftian characteristics. It's hard not to find some irony in this. What a loser,
what a
right?
dweeb.
Fuck that guy.
I mean, tiny squids, you're like, look at that cute little guy.
Yeah.
Big squid, you're like, please don't pick me up.
Yeah, I would be actually probably scared if I saw a real big, like 100-foot squid in the ocean. I'd be like,
that's the kind of stuff where you're like, yeah, that's why sea monsters exist in folklore.
I can't outswim you, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Also, I'm assuming you're back from getting your french fries, Corey. Welcome back.
Yeah, I just like talking.
Yeah.
And that's why I like doing stuff like this a little bit too that's different, because it gives us time to stop and chat. Whereas, like, in like a Final Fantasy game, if we stop for too long, we just never make progress.
Yeah.
Alright. To the hummock.
We got Wendy's earlier, yes.
Yeah, we got the Wendy's Puff Burger.
Well, we tried to get the Wendy's Puff Burger, but then they gave us a chicken sandwich instead for some reason, so we got the chicken sandwich. It was still good.
An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
What is that?
We were talking about this yesterday when you were gone. So it's adult Happy Meal, but you can get like OG McDonald's characters.
Because I've been seeing people make jokes about it, where like they're like, "Don't get the adult Happy Meal. This is the toy," and then it was just like, you know, like a little thing of vodka, or it would be like a Ronald McDonald sex toy or something, and I was just like, "What the fuck is happening at McDonald's?" So.
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Because there's a lot of undulating tentacles, that's why.
The fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain. I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
I want this as like a screensaver.
It looks really cool, yeah.
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of
after the
stream, I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day.
Wallpapers.
Sure. Replace
Without
our...
the glare of the
We've had this one
parching
for a while.
my journey would have cost me
Tolkien.
less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset.
This
Picking
doesn't look
up my
that tall,
pack,
honestly.
I started for the crest of the eminence.
I think I've climbed higher hills than that.
Yeah.
The Loner, it's Ian.
Yeah.
You should read this one.
Contrary to popular opinion, Lovecraft was not an ever-frowning, eccentric, grumpy loner. He considered himself to be a person who appreciated humor. Moreover, he would often meet with friends in his apartment or at various cafes in Brooklyn and Manhattan. At times, his social life was so intensive, his work would suffer for months. There was a point when he finally decided he needed to put an end to daily meetings and loitering in New York cafeterias and resorted to hiding at home, and reading with the main room light turned off, pretending he wasn't there whenever a friend knocked on his door. He also had another method of deterring his guests, which involved greeting them in the bathroom with an unmade bed visible in the background and piles of paper standing across the floor.
Oh, what a great move. You open the door and you're just like, "Hey guys." And they're like, "Oh, sorry.
Are you okay?"
Yeah, they're like, "What the heck?"
Alright. To the ascent.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon.
We did finish the lamb today. There is DLC coming for it, so it will probably make a return.
At some point.
Yeah, but I mean, I liked it. It was pretty fun.
It was pretty fun.
The way I think as they work out some of the bugs that make the systems work together better, it'll be a little more streamlined.
Yeah.
Whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
You keep sitting next to me and meowing, but you won't come up here and sit with me.
I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night.
There she goes.
Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost.
Pop quiz. Who wrote Paradise Lost?
Oh, I know
And
this.
Paradise Regained.
I know this. My mind is saying Draco Malfoy, and I'm like,
George W. Bush?
I know that's not right. Dante? No. I don't know.
But you're on the right track because the main character does at one point, I believe, talk about Virgil.
I don't know. Who wrote it? Tell
John
us.
Milton.
John Milton.
Yep.
That's square.
Or you know, I have it backwards. Dante writes, the main character in Dante's story is traveling.
You're close.
And finds himself lost, and they encounter Virgil, and Virgil's like, "I'm gonna guide you through hell, and like you can go back and tell your people about it."
Sure.
And it's really cool because when they come out of hell, they go up into space, sitting at the moon, and each like sphere, like heavenly body, is like a part of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
I remember people saying, "Don't let anyone ever tell you it's bad to write fan fiction," because they wrote that fan fiction about going to hell, and then all the philosophers are like, "Yo, we love you. You're really cool." To that guy.
What?
Never mind. I'll find the joke later and I'll share it with you.
I mean, it is kind of fan fiction about hell, but like I don't understand.
Because they talk to the philosophers that died that they liked. and then they're like,
to some extent, yeah.
they're like saying to the guy that is there, they're like, you're really cool, and we like you a lot. And so it's like fan fiction because he's like writing about these philosophers he admires, thinking he's cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry the joke didn't land for you. I thought it was funny when I saw it.
Darkness.
So this is actually my favorite part of the Paradise Lost, because in some mythology, chaos is also a primordial entity that God took pieces of and made into the world. So when Satan is thrown out of heaven and all of his demons and they fall into hell, Satan eventually, there's like a council and they talk and stuff. Satan's like, I'm gonna find a way out of here, and fucks off. And he finds Chaos, and he's like, Chaos, can you make me a bridge to Earth? And Chaos is like, why would I do that? And Satan's like, well, God took parts of you and made you into the world. Don't you want yourself back? So Satan's like, one of Satan's motives is to like destroy Earth to give Chaos what God took from it back.
Did you know that Chaos's order spelled backward? You looked at the chat before I could say it. I'd have you be like, what?
Corey, how dare you disturb my lecture?
Yeah, you gotta squint.
You have detention, and you're gonna have to write Chaos's order spelled backwards 100 times by hand on the chalkboard.
So wait, you're having him write because he was right?
No, being punished. You gotta look at his own lies.
Alright.
It's like rubbing a dog's face in its own poop.
Ew, okay.
As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular.
You had to do that before? I've never actually had that assigned as a punishment.
I had to do that for my speech therapist because she used to hate me.
Turn in your homework late? Why would you have to write lines for a speech therapist?
Well, basically, she was like, do you have your homework done? I remember I was in like 3rd grade. And I was like, yeah. And then she was like, all of it? And I was like, well, I have this, like, a thing that's due in, like, 3 days. And she was like, well, you just lied to me. And I was like, excuse me?
Oh,
your mom probably knows her.
Probably.
Yeah.
My mom knows all of this. All the speech pathologists know each other in the school system.
Well, I mean, this woman was probably in her 40s when I was in 3rd grade. So she's probably substantially older than my parents, let alone your mom.
Yeah.
But yeah. Alright. That takes us forward. We got nothing.
Got nothing.
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Made into the main punishment for your elementary school. Whatever rule you broke, you had to write it like 500 times. If you didn't finish in time, you had to come back the next... Well, I don't... That just seems like such a dumb punishment to me. Yeah, that sucks. Like I said, I never had that happen to me personally as a punishment.
Alright.
I'm trying to think now. I don't think I ever got detention, or if I did, I got it like once or twice, so I don't remember. But I did go to summer school one time.
I scrambled with difficulty.
Because I failed my math class like 3 times, so...
Nerd!
Yeah, it was pretty nerdy. Yeah, I was just gonna say... Yeah, because they want to get a hand cramp rating something 500 times.
Gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light
Stygian deeps.
penetrated.
Good word.
All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
So many different kinds of moons in this story.
Well, it was gibbous, but now it's going up, so it's not really a different kind of moon.
Well,
it's just telling us the direction it's going.
Oh my god, you know what I mean. I mean the different descriptors of the moon.
Be exact in your nomenclature. Alright. That's like the laugh from what's her name in One Piece? The mirror lady.
Assured myself.
The mirror lady? Yeah. Oh, yeah, she's like quack 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 quack.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody in One Piece has to have a weird ass laugh.
Here's some characterization.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
I'm gonna my dick on it.
And I was gonna make fun of for the undulating tentacles earlier. I was just gonna ask you, what would you do if you saw that? But then you said, what's wrong?
You don't want my undulating tentacle?
Well, I'm gonna touch it. I just imagine you doing that in Dagon, being like, fuck. What the fuck is this guy doing? What the fuck? He's just like, oh, we got another one.
We know what's gonna be tomorrow's TikTok. When the moon hits your monolith like a big pizza pie, that's Dagon.
For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith.
What does well-shaped mean? Apparently to this person it meant like cube-shaped almost.
Well, it's... the implication, like, right now is that he's, you know, somewhere weird, but it's land, right?
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't happen naturally in nature. So, like, well-shaped as in, like, it's not something natural.
Made by a hand, human hand, maybe?
Whose
they shaped it real good.
Alright,
it's
Donald Trump.
goodly shaped.
Perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures.
The best shape.
Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Examine your surroundings more closely.
No more secrets?
I do not see anything. Very dark. Oh!
The moon, now near the zenith,
Water!
shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed
Some
in the
cool
chasm,
pictures on there.
and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions, and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Think it's safe to go in that water?
Probably. Safer than rubbing my dick on the monolith.
Oh my god.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me, and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books.
It looks like a wallpaper you'd find at the aquarium.
It does.
I mean, except for the middle
for
part.
the most part
kinda.
of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels,
That's Cthulhu right there in the middle.
mollusks, whales, and the like.
He's got his wings and his little tentacle mouth. Just go ahead and drink it, guys. It's fine.
I mean, would you be interested in watching, like, an actual breakdown of, like, the full lore of the Cthulhu mythos?
I mean, we can.
I mean, it's just, like, it's really cool, but it's long, obviously.
I feel like I watched
Characters
one before,
obviously
but-
represented marine things which have
'Cause I-
been known to the modern world.
Had a great old one be the motivator for the Lich of my big bad in the first D&D campaign I ran.
Yeah, but you were watching, like...
Yog-Sothoth or whatever their name is.
You were watching, like, you know, descriptions of each individual ones. There's, like, a through narrative, too, to the stuff happening in the world.
But whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
The Little Mermaid under the sea.
That's where they all hang out, supposedly. Storytelling methods. Dagon contains many themes in storytelling Methods that Lovecraft developed in his later work, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness and the Nameless City, journals and characters' notes, the Shadow of Time, the Hunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, the Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies, Migo in The Whisperer in Darkness. It is also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending.
You can get Nyarlathotep.
Nyarlathotep, however you say his. I actually think he is the coolest one.
He's really cool.
Because he's the one that kind of looks like a human.
Yeah.
Right? Like more humanoid and can actually converse a little better with humans, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking he was pretty cool when I was like researching all of them to decide which one.
Mm-hmm.
But then I ended up going with, I can't remember how to say it, Yog-Shoggoth, because they were like the madness one, and I wanted that to be the...
Because they're just like the god of entropy, like their entropy.
They just look like a bunch of eyeballs.
Yeah.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré.
Mermaids?
I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for
there weren't many, according to this.
Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
With the head of a fish and a human legs. Yeah. I mean, I think that's... Well, I mean, in that depiction, it kind of looks like they have fish legs. But whenever I imagine the fishmen from the Lovecraft stories, I always picture fish heads with legs.
Yeah, and when they're described as, like, humanoid, they're always, like, faintly kind of damp. And, like...
moist.
Yeah, and they're, like, bulging eyes and stuff.
Undulating.
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips. Glassy.
They got those
eyes,
flabby
and other
lips.
features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background.
Or were they
just
really big?
One of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked,
That's a big fish.
their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown.
This game is called Dagon, and it's on Steam, and it's essentially a visual novel.
Yeah, it's just a visual novel adaptation of Lovecraft's story, Dagon.
So we're not really, like, playing a game.
Like, we're not making decisions or anything, we're actually...
We're just clicking through.
Essentially reading the short story.
Yeah.
But with pictures. It's one of the better Lovecraft stories, so...
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Oh god, what is it? Ah!
Loathsome. It darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith.
It's a fish man.
About which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
No, just if you're really quiet, baby.
I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent.
I think you went mad then?
And of my delirious journey back.
Bro, you're walking in the slime desert.
But he doesn't remember getting out of there. Make sure.
Hello?
Fuck that shit, I'm out.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Like, it's just cool. The scenery's so good in this.
Yeah?
I have indistinct
hello.
recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat.
How are we gonna get this boat out of this slime?
Pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
Fade to black.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital. Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
I haven't heard that word used in a long time.
Well, I mean, the story, Lovecraft wrote the story like 1920.
Thither.
In my delirium,
actually probably like
I had said
1914.
much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
The journalist. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticisms to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again for the first time since his teenage years. Dagon, published in 1919, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is or ever can be above warfare until the basic impulses of the human animal shall have miraculously changed. Can I have my water?
There you go.
Get it right. My throat's getting dry reading all these.
Oh, what are you talking about? We were so moist seconds ago. Hi, Harmony. This is a visual novel adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's Dagon. Essentially, it's a story of a guy who is enlisted in World War I, and he abandoned ship, and then he wakes up on a weird island. We are both wearing black.
True.
But he wakes up on a weird island, and he walks across the island and finds a strange monolith, and then a fishman jumps out and takes the monolith, and he goes insane and wakes up in this hospital. It's a good story if you want to read the story, or listen to the audiobook.
So this is basically a visual novel, but then there's also like little fact tidbits that you can find throughout the game if you want to read about H.P. Lovecraft and his life. Such as this. Typical Friday night of us here.
In 1921, Lovecraft released a series of 3 essays, The Defense Reopens, The Defense Remains Open, and Final Words, later published as a collection titled In Defense of Dagon, in which he rebuked a series of criticisms directed at his works, some notable quotes. I paint what I dream and will let the public settle the rest amongst themselves. Mr. Monday asks the raison d'etre of Dagon, and will give it purely and simply to reproduce a mood. His object is the simplest in all art, portrayal. Raison d'etre is reason for being. The physical horrors of war, no matter how extreme and unprecedented, hardly have a bearing on the entirely different realm of supernatural terror. Ghosts are still ghosts. The mind can get more thrills from unrealities than from realities. In the essays, Lovecraft touches upon the topics of atheism, materialism, the quest for truth, and the love of science. Okay. I think that's everything.
Once
Harmony,
I
in
sought out a celebrated ethnologist.
Call to the Lamb today, which we beat, your character was like, hey, save my sister! So we saved your sister.
Yep.
And amused
did
him
that.
with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
There's gotta be something. There we go.
Dagon. This might be what Draco was telling us earlier. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The ruler of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon.
Okay. I think that's everything in this room besides some main thing.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Hopelessly conventional. August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works throughout his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic. To the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's work are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It's also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the world.
Yeah, because the point of cosmicism is not that these things are inherently after men. It's that they're so big they don't notice us. It's like us walking over an ant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, so the concept that they're like evil is not true.
Right.
They're malevolent to us, but it's just because we are nothing to them. The Marketer. Lovecraft's attempts to find a job in 1925 were influenced by advice he received from friends. Among others, he started freelancing for a marketing magazine where he would write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copywriting skills for yourself. From an ad for Curtis Woodwork. Curtis Woodwork embraces both the usual structural units and the cleverest contrivances of built-in or permanent furniture, such as bookcases, dressers, buffets, and cupboards. Every model is conceived and created with the purest art, ripest scholarship and mellowest craftsmanship, which energetic enterprise can command, and made to conform rigidly to the architecture of each particular type of home. The cost, considering the quality, is amazingly low. The trademark on the individual pieces prevents any substitution by careless contractors.
Yeah, this is it. It's just a book.
Yeah,
basically.
It's a visual novel. It's a story with pictures and some...
Basically, we're reading a book together, and then also reading all the footnotes that talk about H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah.
That's it.
Who is also one of my favorite writers, so... For me, it's very interesting.
It's not that long. We might almost be done with it, even.
Yeah.
So... The scientist. These days, the word scientist is a widely accepted term, but at the time Dagon was published, it was subject to wide debate. After the author used it in the story, critics pointed out that the man of science was a more appropriate term to employ. He admitted, in the defense of Dagon, that if Dagon were to be reprinted, he would indeed use the phrase they suggested. Scientist was coined as an analog to artist, to be used when referring to those studying different branches of science. Yet in the 19th and early 20th century, scientific researchers in Great Britain and the United States were of the opinion that man of science, resembling the term man of letters, was the only proper choice, among other things. It was gender-specific, indicating that science was an endeavor to be pursued only by one sex. The term scientist became more accepted only after World War II, and man of science started fading into obscurity as an old-fashioned synonym.
Yep. The man of letters is in Supernatural.
I do recall.
Can't wait for the Winchester show.
Yeah?
God, I need that in my life. I need air.
Okay.
It is at
Oh,
night,
we're back at the desk.
especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I
Gibbous.
see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Oh, alright. Well.
Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with a friend, Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zelia Brown. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to. Having strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate natural equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will, I am rather in favor of prohibition. The prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as any other.
Let the herd do what they will. And he wrote a journal called The Conservative. I mean, if you need to know, Lovecraft, yeah. Lovecraft sucks. Can't even take one shot.
Forget the racism in the stories, it's the fucking alcohol.
He's such a lightweight. Like, oh, this guy. Can you believe this guy?
Alright, go for the morphine.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm.
I think a Four Loko, like, how far would you have to go back in time? Oh, there's a cat in my blanket. Oh. For a Four Loko?
Anymore.
Like, you know, okay, 1990, 1980, 1970. A Four Loko would be strong, right? But it would still be like an out, like
I don't know.
alcohol beverage.
In the 70s and 80s, I think they had other stuff that they were using.
Well, they were doing like hard drugs.
Yeah.
But like, can you imagine going back to like like Prohibition and being like, here, try this Four Loko?
Four Loko. Or going back to like ancient Greece and being like, go to like where they're worshiping Dionysus and be like, guys,
fucking drink this shit.
This.
Yeah, the pre-change Four Loko.
A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
A lot of big fish. Tail into the Statue of Liberty.
Yep.
Slipping, I guess. Wow, wow.
The end is near.
He's still at it.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Slippery body.
Whoa.
You look at the door?
I can't go any farther.
Maybe, oh, there's the door. I was like, maybe we just sit here and listen to this until it, like, breaks in. And we die.
Yo, my name's Dagon, and I'm here to say Lovecraft was pretty lame.
It shall not find.
He was pretty lame.
I love his writing, but as a man, put him in the grinder.
Oh. Tentacles.
God, that hand.
Where? Oh, it's the fish man.
The window. The window.
I can't turn
To
it.
the wall. To the wall.
To this one drips down my balls. Damn, those fishmen crawl. Ah, skeet, 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 skeet.
I think we're dead.
Yep,
We died.
that's how the story ends.
That's it. That's the whole game. Only like 30 minutes. Well, actually, I think it took.
We took about an hour, but we were talking.
We were talking. We were reading all the other little things, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Little glass bottle, the
Yeah, I wonder
Eldritch
what
box.
the DLC is supposed to have in it.
Let me check these out.
What does it have in it? I mean, I don't know. That's game. I mean, that one was free, so
Yeah.
like whatever. But you know, I would like. I usually like to have some more gameplay type elements in my.
I like visual novels, especially for weird fiction. Just because I like to see how people present the stories.
It also, yeah, it helps if you have some sort of visualization that you can make.
Yeah. Okay, so these are.
So we miss? Oh, we missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think.
I think so. But yeah,
Somewhere.
that is Dagon.
That's it.
Yeah, it's a good story.
That's all she wrote, folks.
But like, there's such a balancing act in that kind of writing, because he could go on to be like, Dagon was a deep sea fish monster, and I, blah blah blah. But instead, you're like left being like, why, what? And when you get someone in that mind state, like then you've got them. Like they're thinking about that story for the rest of their life. Yeah,
There you go.
that was fun.